In my first 10 months on a strict ketogenic lifestyle, I lost over 100 pounds of fat and water. No surgery, no shots, no magic pills. So today I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it so you can decide if this could work for you. But before I talk about how I lost the weight, you need to understand where I was starting from. In the summer of 2018, when I went to my doctor, I weighed around 325 to 335 pounds. A month earlier, on a family trip to New York, I was closer to 340 pounds. And that trip mattered. My son had just graduated high school. My son had just earned his Eagle Scout. And I still have a photo of us together in our Boy Scout leadership uniforms. However, shortly after that trip, my doctor told me I was morbidly obese, pre-diabetic, and hypertensive. And he gave me two options. One path was medication, blood sugar drugs, blood pressure meds, possibly statins, maybe some insulin down the road. The other path, though, was changing how I ate. He knew I didn't like taking pills or taking shots. So he explained to me the ketogenic diet and gave me some references. Mentally, I was scared. I was 48 years old. My dad had already had multiple heart attacks by the time he was my age. My mom was a type 2 diabetic, and I had a very close family member who had already experienced serious complications from type 2 diabetes. See, I wasn't just worried about my weight. I was worried about whether I'd be around for the next chapter of my family's life. So let's answer the main question. The answer? Yes, you can lose massive amounts of fat and water on keto. And I'm very intentional with those words because weight includes muscle. Muscle is metabolically valuable. Carrying large amounts of excess body fat is what damages health, and the ketogenic diet is muscle preserving. So keto isn't about shrinking yourself. It's about changing what your body runs on. But here's the reality. When people say keto, they often mean very different things. Some mean low carb. That's only about keeping your carbohydrates to under about 150 grams per day, usually anyways. It's better than eating junk food, but usually you're not being in ketosis either. Some mean what's called dirty keto. That's fast food without the bun, packaged keto snacks all the time, seed oils everywhere in everything, still highly processed foods. Now, some people lose fat that way, but it just wasn't my approach. What I did was strict keto. Low enough in carbs to stay in ketosis, real food, no fear of healthy, maligned fats. My wife and I did make fat bombs, and I fueled myself with things like buttered coffee. I wasn't just eating fewer carbs, though. I was eating more healthy fats and more quality animal proteins specifically. I was committing I was committing fully. I mean, coffee with butter. That meant meal preps, steak, eggs, butter. My grocery cart when I went to the grocery store was meat focused. From July through October of 2018, I focused on discipline. No alcohol, no excuses. Early on, I was worried about things like the keto flu. I didn't know what fat adapted meant. I just pushed through. For the first basically 9 to 10 months, I measured my food carefully. And yes, it probably sounds obsessive, but I needed to learn my limits. See, I hadn't reached true satiety yet, and I didn't know what enough felt like. Most mornings, I prepped the night before: coffee with butter and heavy whipping cream, hard boiled eggs, sugar free meat sticks. During the day, coffee, water, and more water. Then that's when I learned about needing electrolytes because my legs started cramping up at night after work. So my wife and I started cooking real food again. Nothing out of a box. Sometimes it was bagged salad and protein. Perfect didn't matter, but being consistent did. However, we ate too lean, too much chicken breast, too much low fat beef. And by October, I plateaued. But by then, I was already down about 50 pounds or so. See, the diet wasn't failing. My body, after years of being morbidly obese, was finally becoming fat adapted. But it was also trying to resist the change. Part of the reason? I wasn't fueling it properly. I was still eating too lean. And I also need to be honest. Early on, I lucked out. I mean, a proper keto diet is 40 to 60% fat. I was eating closer to 25 to 30 to 35%. My body covered the gap with stored fat, and not everybody can rely on that. But that plateau forced me to take a hard look at what I had learned the hard way and how that was going to matter heading into November and December of 2018. Now, the first thing I should have done differently was simple. I should have started walking in July. Day one, walking would have helped my joints and increased my metabolism. By late summer, I did have more clarity, more steady energy, and that's when fat adaptation was starting to take hold. My body was changing, and I was learning what real satiety felt like. My taste for food was changing too. Some things tasted intense. Other things started tasting pretty bland. And that helped me to understand what my body needed and what it didn't. During the holidays, I wasn't perfect. I had pie. I had potatoes. But the thing was is they did not own me anymore. Again, certain foods had no more appeal, and it felt liberating. It really did. But then came the social pressure. Why aren't you drinking? Isn't keto unhealthy? Come on, just have one drink. Just have one potato. So I developed a response. I'd say, so what's more unhealthy? Me eating real food, protein, and healthy fats, or staying morbidly obese and pre-diabetic? And by late November, I'd already lost about 50 pounds. And that usually quieted people down. By the end of November, I had been stalled for almost a full month. The scale wasn't moving. I started digging for more answers. I found videos from Thomas DeLauer about fasting. I had tried a 16-hour fast with an 8-hour eating window for several weeks. That was a turning point. Fasting plus keto broke my plateau. And by January, my wife and I had joined Orange Theory Fitness as founding members. When the local studio opened up in February, I got serious about not only my diet, but working out. That's what took me from 50 pounds lost to over 100 pounds. Now, somewhere along the way, this stopped being just a diet, but it didn't make me into someone new. It allowed me to become who I already was underneath all the fat. more disciplined, more present, more capable. By mid 2019, I was nearly 220 pounds at 49. And at 49, I ran my first sub 8-minute mile in over 30 years. Gentlemen, that wasn't ego. That was proof I wasn't broken. And after COVID shut down all the public gyms, I shifted to strength. I found a private weightlifting gym. I started building muscle. Yes, I added a little bit of fat, but I added almost 25 to 35 pounds of muscle since 2022. Today, I'm stronger. I'm healthier than I was at 48. Hell, I'm stronger now than I was at 28. But here's the reality though. Keto didn't fix me. It gave me a foundation. For me and for many men, keto and carnivore are the most reliable ways to control hunger and cravings. That's why this channel is pro-keto and pro-carnivore. I've lived it. See, some men succeed other ways, but most will still borrow those keto principles. Lower sugar, more protein, less processed foods. See, the thing is real success comes from stacking habits, eating with intention, moving your body, being honest, staying accountable to yourself, to your family, to your community, and to God. Now, I'm still working on sleep. I'm still working on stress. I'm a truck driver by trade. This is a process, not a phase. Now, before you go, remember this. Men don't get healthy just for themselves. We do it to be better husbands, better fathers, better sons. We do it to show up for our families, for our communities, and for our churches. And I want to be honest, because of years of being morbidly obese, my body is permanently damaged. I've got structural damage, things that won't ever fully go back. I'm never going to have the body I had when I was a member of the U.S. Coast Guard. I'm never going to look good in a pair of Speedos, and that's okay. I'm not doing this for a magazine cover. I'm doing it for my metabolic health, for strength, for longevity. And I'm doing it so I can be present for my family. And gentlemen, if that matters to you, subscribe and walk this road with me. And by the way, I'm going to link to a video here on the keto voices that I trust. Start there, build your foundation, and gentlemen, keep going.